Path Media. I was a minimum wage movie theater usher that made good and became a top earner in my network marketing company. Now, after 16 plus years in the profession, I'm finally teaching myself how to leverage the internet with online marketing and social media marketing to continue to grow and expand my business. My name is Ronnie Cruz, and this is Path of the Network Marketer.
All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about the purpose and function of online content. That's right, the purpose and function of online content. Really, really important stuff, especially as you start to leverage online platforms and social media platforms to build out your marketing for your business. And what we're going to talk about today actually will help you vastly improve what you're currently doing. Before we get into all of that, let me remind you, if you're not already part of our Facebook community, come join us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/groups/path of the network marketer. It's just another place to get more content, another place to turn to as a resource as you take your business online. I go live there about 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on my schedule. However, there will be content there that isn't necessarily going to be available here on the podcast. So another great resource for you. Again, it's facebook.com/groups/path of the network marketer. I'll leave the link in the show notes of this episode. All right, so the purposes and functions of online content. Again, really, really important conversation because if you're not maximizing your content, or at least if you don't have these concepts in your mind as you're creating and then publishing your content, you really could be shooting yourself in the foot with all of this and wasting a lot of time. You can better maximize your efforts if you have these principles, in mind as you're creating and then publishing your content. So I've come up with 3 purposes of online content, and some people might say there's more, some people might say less, but these are the 3 that I've narrowed it down to. Number 1, it's to grow your audience. Number 2, to grow your influence. And number 3, to lead people to the next step. Now, I'm going to focus in on the first 2, grow your audience and grow your influence, because without these first 2, the last one's not going to make any sense. You won't even be able to get to the last one if you're not growing your audience or your influence, right? So we'll focus in on these 2. Now, in order to make these 2 happen, your content, each piece of content that you create and publish has to serve 3 functions. The first function is to make a good first impression. Number 2 is for people to get to know you. And number 3, to provide value. Now, to kind of expand on these one by one. The first impression. It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple. And I point this out because, especially here in the West, I don't know, in the East it might be different because, there's stories that algorithms for the internet and for social platforms especially are different in places like China where things are more regulated. But here in the West, right, where people scroll and have 3-second attention spans, you gotta catch their eye, right? You have to make a decent enough first impression at least to stop people from scrolling. And so this really involves creating and developing into that attractive character like Russell Brunson talks about. And I know this takes time, right? Developing your voice takes time. So you're not going to immediately get this right away. However, there are things you can do to maximize this even from the very beginning. If you have a low amount of energy on your videos, for example, if you're kind of drab, and this is not a judgment on you, it's just the how you're delivering your message, right? It's really, really important to pay attention to these, because if you're not delivering your message with any kind of amount of energy or charisma, then people are not going to be drawn to it at all. And in fact, people will feel like it's sucking the energy out of them, and they're definitely going to scroll by, right? And so you want to portray yourself, or at least come across with a little modicum of energy and charisma, so that way you're giving energy as opposed to sucking energy away, right? Like that's one of the biggest things I see happen. And again, it's not so much a judgment of you. It's not, not that there's anything wrong with you or how you talk. It's just your delivery. You have to really be mindful of how you're delivering the message that you're trying to deliver, because if it's delivered in a way that people don't want to listen to it, it doesn't matter how great the message is. They're just going to keep scrolling if you're delivering it in a boring, drab, lack of energy way. So really, really be mindful of that. That's one thing that can immediately affect and improve your first impression of the content that you're publishing. Okay. So number two is get to know you. That's pretty simple. Part of that is, again, being more authentically you, and of course with a little bit more energy and charisma. But yeah, just being real, right? Not being, not putting on any pretense. One of the things that for me is like, yeah, I don't like get super dolled up and dressed up. I don't have like a makeup, team or anything like that. I don't put on fancy clothes. I'm in a t-shirt and a beanie as of this recording because it's winter time. I just started wearing a necklace. For those of you watching the video anyways, I just started wearing a necklace a couple of weeks ago, just to add a little bit of bling to the videos. But beyond that, I mean, I'm just really a regular dude in a t-shirt, and that's really all that matters to me. Just being that authentic me, though, it allows people to get to know me better. And I think the more authentic you are, the more people will be drawn to you, right? Like you'll definitely, people are attracted to real and authentic as opposed to, facades, right? People can smell a facade a mile away. And so, there's no need, while you're working on, improving your energy and your charisma, there's really, be careful that you're not pretending to be something that you're not. Okay, so allow people to get to know the real authentic you. And then as far as specific things, use your best judgment. I'm a pretty private person when it comes down to it, but be aware that because you're using the internet and the social media platforms for your business, you don't want this to be a situation where you're airing out your dirty laundry online, right? Like, again, we're content consumers now. We're not it's the other way around. We're content creators now. We're not content consumers. How people have typically used social media, especially in the past, has to change, right? And I know, I've seen people just talk about the craziest, very, very personal things online because they're not building, an audience. They're not building a business online. That's okay for them. But for us as business builders, for us as content creators, you don't want to air out dirty laundry and really, really personal business. Share as much personal information as you want, but to air out laundry, that's not a cool thing. And it's definitely going to detract from your business, okay? But anyways, whatever level that you're willing to allow people into your space, you're going to want to give them a little bit to get to know, because that's what they're going to attach to, right? That's what they're going to connect with and that they're going to relate to. And then the last thing is, of course, provide value. And the longer you do this, you'll get better at providing value because you'll continue to grow your expertise, your knowledge base, and your proficiency in whatever topic or area that you happen to be talking about and that your business happens to be involved in. So this will take time as well, right? I know a lot of people on the onset, when they first start taking their businesses online and start leveraging social media and online platforms, they're like, well, I don't, what do I talk about? I'm not necessarily an expert yet at anything. And again, to reference back on Lori Harder's podcast from last week, I think I talked about it. She said, well, pretend that you're talking to a version of you from 12 months ago, right? Like for me, I know things today that I didn't know 12 months ago. So I'm sharing that with that version of myself. And I see a lot of that version of myself in people who are just starting out online, right? So you don't have to be like a high level of expertise, but just be willing to be on that journey and learn along the way. And of course, you've got to be consistent with all of these things, right? The more consistent you are, the more you'll be able to develop your attractive character so that you become more, so that you make a better first impression, so that people get to know you better, and that you have more value to provide over time. So those are the things that you really want to pay attention to. Again, the three purposes of your content is to grow your audience, to grow your influence, and to lead people to the next step. And in order to maximize that, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to these functions of your content, that your content makes a first impression. It also allows your audience to get to know you, and then it allows your audience to get value from the content that you publish. So that's the topic for today. If you have any questions about this, of course, the best place to reach me is our Facebook community. It's facebook.com/group/path of the network marketer. And of course, if you're not already following the show, follow the show. Hit the plus sign at the top of whatever app you happen to be listening on. And if you want, leave a rating and a review, 5 stars. I would really, really appreciate it. Share this episode and any episode that you happen to have listened to in the past. And then beyond that, well, we'll catch you in the next one. So until then, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.